Hi, this is Chad Griffith, and this video is meant to show the useful nature of Infohio for quality resources for my students. First thing is to get to Infohio. So, infohio.org, Infohio. There we go. My students are high school, so they would select 9 through 12. Once loaded, they have some options right from the get-go here. They can do kind of a generic search right here, or they can look at the various resources listed, or they can narrow. Additional resource listings in a drop-down. Let's just stick with the 912 menu for now and scroll through here. So, Ancestry. Not so useful for most of what they're doing. Biography Reference Bank, if looking for information about a particular person. Biography Reference Bank is an excellent resource. Consumer health, health related. Digital video collection, usable. The videos here could be used and cited as resources. Ebscohost we're going to come back to as probably the most useful. I'm going to skip the foreign language information for now. Ebooks, conceivably something good there. Learning Express Library, very useful, but not so much for this. Literacy Reference Center, mostly works that are in the public domain, so not so useful for research. The Facts on File from Science, conceivably useful, not necessarily great for overall research. Student Research Center, very good for, as you might guess, student research. World Book Academic, not a citable resource, not what I'm after for my students with their writing, but still a great place to look and get some basic information and some ideas on simple topics. World Book Advanced, I guess, is even a little better than the academic edition, if I remember right. One of these two is, they differ slightly, but they're each just online encyclopedias. And Timelines, again, probably good for ideas, probably not as good. I guess it could be good for just having some solid information on dates. All right, let's go back and look at a couple of these resources in more detail. In particular, an Ebscohost search. Ebscohost pulls together big numbers of resources. So, the way to think about Ebscohost, and this somewhat cryptic looking page, is that each of these is a separate database holding lots of information about a certain topic. So imagine that this entire page is a large file cabinet, and each of these databases is one drawer in that file cabinet. And if you open that particular database, like this, by clicking on the title list, so I've just picked Mass Ultra School Edition as the database. So imagine that this database is the individual drawer in the file cabinet. I click title list, and I see each of the magazines or publications that happens to be in that drawer. So if I type, let's try sports for Sports Illustrated, and I'm looking alphabetically here. So if I type sports, it should go alphabetically to the word sports among all of the magazines in this database, aka drawer. And there it is. Sports Illustrated is the #1 hit. So Sports Illustrated is a magazine included in that database, and we can see that we have every Sports Illustrated full text from 1992 until now. So we could go and we could look there. Now, if we just wanted to search through things like Sports Illustrated and other magazines in this particular database, then we would type a search string here and we would get a hit. But let's go back and look more broadly than that. So here we are with all of these different databases, and the easiest thing to do really is to just select them all, and then unless you get way too many hits to deal with, it saves some time. So we'll say that our paper is going to be about George Washington. So we have George Washington here. We've done a search, and we got 472,000 hits. That's a few too many for the average student to fumble through. So we're going to narrow it so we only look at full text. That means we'll only get hits from the ones where we can read the entire article. And then we don't want old articles about George Washington. We only want new articles about George Washington. So we can set the publication date. Here we go. Publication date. We're going to set it to start in 2013. So 2013 until now. That's easy enough. And try again. Search. Now, that cut quite a few, but we still have more than I want to deal with. Actually, the publication date didn't seem to change. 1860 to 2013. Nope. How about 2013 to 2014? That looks more useful. Well, it would if it would work. Looks like it's 2013, and that's what we have to deal with. Okay, where does that bring us? That brings us to 24,000. Still more than I want. Okay, one of the things that we can do is narrow by the subject. If we want the subject to be George Washington himself, the man who lived between these years, that narrows it to 226. That's a much more manageable number. Good. And we could continue to narrow it if we were looking more specifically at George Washington and his ties to the American Revolution. Then we could narrow it to 16, and that would be just a great number to work with. So if we look here, a great leader, Cobblestone magazine. If Cobblestone, which is a fairly young adult magazine, if it were quality enough to count as a resource for the paper, that might be something we wanted to look at. Alternative history is probably not something we would want to jump into there. Faithfully standing by our man. Let's go with a great leader and look at the full text version. Here it is. So here is a quality resource from Infohio, or through Infohio, and more specifically through Ebscohost. Once here, if we need to cite this, the easiest way to do it is to click the Cite button. And we get a variety of formats pre-written for us here. So if we scroll down to MLA, we can copy it and paste it from right here. Or if we're using EasyBib, then we would need to take this information and type it in, specifying that we found it in an online database. And we would need to have the link, and the link can be found here under permalink. And it can be copied and pasted. So that's the basic process for finding good information through Ebscohost, the #1 resource that I recommend from Infohio.